Thanks for joining us today. We're going to talk about some of the tools we've developed to help small, medium manufacturers. I mean, any size manufacturers, but we really have intentionally developed these tools for small, medium manufacturers. Today with me, Jim Wetzel of NxGen Group. And Jim has been key in the development of these tools and the certification program that goes with them. Working with our PI. Is Rensselaer also in the crowd? Not yet. Oh, there he comes. Hey. Hi, Craig. Welcome. Welcome to the session. Okay. So I want to start by saying that we got a great community. And my focus today was really to talk to the community of professionals about the roadmap of the tools, and also talk about ideas that we're learning, lessons learned from the field. But even if you're not a currently certified professional, you will benefit from this discussion. Okay, but how many certified professionals I got here? Okay, got quite a few. Okay, now the important thing there is that if you're not, those are resources for you to ask questions, and now I know who to pick on during this meeting. Okay, so our agenda today is to discuss the roadmap framework evolution plans, ideas for enhancements. So that's all kind of one topic. And then we're going to go into a discussion of what's working on the field, what's not. And this is meant to be an interactive session. So we're going to have a lot of interaction. So let me start by taking a step back. And this will be familiar to all the certified professionals. But this is really the scope of the tools and the systematic approach that we have to take manufacturers through assessment of where they're at today, to help them focus on the opportunities in front of them and the value of those opportunities in the context of solutions they could implement, and then help them build a roadmap for the next 3 years, right? That's the end of this process. It starts with an assessment, goes into deep dives, future state, and then in a roadmap. And we've developed a set of templates and tools to help reduce the time it takes for a consultant to coach the manufacturer. So we really have a process that is focused on coaching the manufacturer, and as opposed to the consultant just doing this for the manufacturer. And that's where a lot of the templates really come to play. And we've reduced these efforts down to 25, 40 hours for the consultant. But even if the manufacturer takes 4 months, right, you're going to touch with them at certain points in this process, and you're going to spend only a limited amount of time with them. Is there some other overview information you want to give at this point, Jim? Okay. So I'm going to discuss the evolution of the tool in the context of this framework. So what parts of this have we put into the new tool? So how many of you have used the new tool, the new system? Okay, we got like a handful of folks, okay? So what we've done is taken the assessment part, okay, that was MS Forms based, and we put it on an online tool, which lets us onboard coaches, consulting firms, their staff. It helps us easily create manufacturers. We still have the features of visitors into the site. And as visitors come in, they identify if they're already working with one of you or came from one of your events, right? They'll identify you that as they come in. And if not, they'll identify what state they're coming from. And with this demographic information, we can help match manufacturers and consultants and coaches. But the process is really made for each region, for each group to be generating the pipeline. So we don't pretend that we're going to have a huge pipeline generated by CESMII. I would love that. But really, each region and the regional focus there, it's really just tools to make your life easier.
Could you step back just for one slide?
Yeah.
So those that are not certified, I want to put a little, maybe make this a little bit easier to understand. We go through an assessment process, which is an online survey that's distributed to as many people of that company that you can get to. So you think of assessment normally meaning you go and talk to one-on-one, you talk to a leader of a company and you get their opinion. In this CESMII process, it's an online survey that's sent out to as many people in the organization as possible. So we use the word that our analysis is crowdsourced, okay? That analysis in the old day before, when Conrad jumped into phase, the new stuff, in the old way, that was a Microsoft form, and it was behind the scenes, a cloud database, and then ultimately resulting in an Excel file as tabular data. The direction that Conrad's talking about is this whole process flow from assess to focus to roadmap. At some point in time, all of the different elements of doing a roadmap and completing a roadmap will be digitized into a system. So the phase one is, well, where do I start? I'm not going to start and do all this stuff. What he showed you on the go to the next slide. This part's done now. It just got done over the summer, and it's live now. And and he'll have a lot more slides about that. But the assessment process is the first part of the templates and tools that's been dropped into this roadmap digital ecosystem.
Yeah, and through that, we're enabling more self-serve and more automated steps for you, because there used to be a few semi-manual steps.
Yeah, so without having it complete in the same digital system, you as a facilitator of roadmaps, you will have an Excel file here, another Excel file there, a PowerPoint, a Word document. You'll have all the right stuff, but it's individual stuff and it's not tidied up together. You are doing the tidying up on your own laptop in your own folder and so on and so on. So this ultimately will be a step forward, but the content isn't really any different. I mean, there's a few tweaks because we can do some things different with technology, but what you got trained in certification, or what you will get trained on in certification if you want to become certified, that will stay on.
So the other piece of this is the portal, the professional portal, which is basically you would be familiar with the format from your course, but all those elements that haven't been replaced yet are still there. So the Word documents, the Excel spreadsheets that still have the other part of the process are still there. And we're going to talk today about getting ideas from you on priorities. So what's next? Okay.
The only other thing I would add to your mindset as you think about the next 45 minutes or so, this has been positioned by CESMII to really be very much akin to an open source community. I don't know how many people have actually in this room have participated in open source communities, where CESMII has been the creator of the content, but with the community input, this product should evolve.
And should evolve quicker than if we were just doing it ourselves.
And so I'll give you an example. So I've run the certification program for the roughly 40 people that have been certified. In the process of many people in this room having gone through certification, you have made suggestions how to make the product, the templates, the analysis, the insight generation, the roadmap creation better. And I know I've talked to a number of you individually and said, I've stolen with pride your little thing that you did for homework, and we've incorporated that into the tool,
to the template,
to make it better because you've improved it. And you'll continue to hear more about that. And that's part of meeting today, is also to talk about this community as think of it as an open source community that wants to share best practices, share your woes, share your successes, share your improvements. So the ability to democratize road mapping for these manufacturers becomes better, cheaper, more complete.
So we want scale. If you used to be able to handle 1 or 2 manufacturers at a time, now we want you doing 10 at a time, because the tools and the processes make it easier, right?
I mean, Tim in the orange shirt back there is doing 6 right now at the same time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we know it's possible. So let me give you a little flavor of what this looks like. So the new application, when you log in as a consultant, so I'm going to assume you got the consulting hat on, you will see that you can manage manufacturers, that you can manage your firm. Just basically, you could replace the address and the phone number or something. But we actually, when we first established the firm, CESMII establishes the firm as a consulting firm. And we make this available to certified consultants. So, and the trial assessment part here is that you can try this out as a consultant just like anybody else can. And well, that's where you would go to look at your trial or redo it. But the important thing here is that if NxGen is working with somebody and Texas is working with somebody else, you're not seeing each other's work. So there's sandboxes, okay? And so this is meant to be a multi-tenant application, and there's these different sandboxes here so that each one of you is working with your clients. Okay? So I'm not going to go through the whole assessment, I mean, because you guys know it, it's online. You can, by the way, anybody here, certified or not, can try it. Can register on the website, and we'll approve it, and you can try it as an observer, okay, if you're not certified yet. But you can go through the whole assessment process. There are some new little things here and there, and one is this little eye in different places that would give you a help on the side. Okay? This is one of the areas we could keep improving. That was based on the glossary, but if there's more terminology or explanations that we should put behind some of these questions, let us know, and we can take that feedback, and that's easily added. The other thing, this is really cool, enhancement. So the way we handle functional roles is we have a predefined list of 13, I think it is, categories of roles that we know are key stakeholders in these processes. Okay, but if you look at some of these roles, like I have like IT/systems/automation/OT, right? These long titles, and basically we mean anybody in the OT, IT area. Each manufacturer might have a different name. So you're able to, on the right-hand side of this, customize for each manufacturer what to call that group. Okay? So when the employee comes in, they'll put their regular department that's free form. They'll pick a functional role that's close to them, and you can further group those roles. And you can even group, if you repeat the label on the right, that will be a way to go from 14 to 7 or 8 if you want to further consolidate. So this is where you would customize the role group that is going to later be one of the ways we group data in the reports.
So could you go back to the slide where it actually shows the matrix? Yeah, up in the deck, one of those slides had the matrix on it.
Which
The state transition matrix, the grid.
Oh,
there we go. There we go. Okay, to put what Conrad just showed you in context, very simply, at the end of the day, you're going to get a dot, like the orange dots on that screen represent the aggregated mathematical averages of the data for the entire company for that critical area, whether that be leadership, whether that be culture, whether it be data-driven processes, et cetera. What we've learned is that the assessment process by itself is a great tool to align the organization on the journey you're about to take.
Jim, I think you wanted that one.
Yeah, that one's fine too. And so what we started to do was we started to explode this out. And what's so cool about what he just showed was that built into the new tool, we can explode it out by function. We can explode it out by business unit, department, or location. And potentially we can add different explode outs. So my practicing on roadmaps so far has been, if I'm analyzing a larger company, let's say they had 10 plants. Let's say I have 300 data points. They want to then say, well, is plant A any different than plant B? Is one plant ahead and one plant behind, kind of thing. Well, by using this grouping feature in here, you can decide how to group all of your data accordingly. The other thing is that you might want to ask the question, not just by location, you might want to group it by job function. And you might want to say IT versus OT, or mechanics versus operators, or whatever. So the beauty of this part is that you can programmatically, or just by clicking on this thing, you can rename your grouping to be anything you want. So you can put it in the language of the customer. Mm-hmm. So when you're working with the client, you'd say, well, when I get if I got 300 data points and 100 of them come from the factory floor, do you want it by welder and mechanic and machine operator? You want it all grouped together as plant operations, right? So how does someone want to look at that data? So those features are all added in here now. You actually could do it in the old system, but it's a lot more work. This is just a click away.
Okay. And if you're not familiar with the maturity matrix and how we calculate it based on the answers of the assessment, you can ask us later and we can get you that information. So also in the new system, right, is that you manage all the users online. You can identify your champion, but with that, and there's a what is the current state? Okay, there's a drop down for the stage up there. Let me get it. That is currently in current state assessment. So as we keep at it, right now it goes from current state to future state, or done with assessments. But more of that, all the stages that we talked about before will be here as we bring more of the tools in here. So this will be where you manage the workflow basically for each manufacturer. And the nice thing is that you'll be able to see who has done it, who has not done it. So for example, that resend invite means we invited them, but they still haven't clicked and registered on the system. Okay. If they've done the assessment, then you see the download report button. Okay. So it gives you a quick way to see who's done it or not. This download report button, if this works, okay. Here is where you get the aggregate. So you can look at partials too. And that also was not easy to do before. Yeah. So this is how it still produces an Excel spreadsheet. And we've been asked, what if we want one of our consultants managing the whole process, but what if we want to share the results in a bigger group and get the opinion of somebody else of what's going on? You can put these outputs into a shared directory for your company, right? And anybody can go look at them. By default, they're going to go to your browser storage place, but then you can move them to SharePoint or something. Any question on that? And you know what we're looking at, like the spread for each one of those groupings and the average in the line in the middle. Yeah. That's the yeah, looking at the variance, right? Sorry, I got ahead of myself here. Now the other thing we've done is that you used to have all these histograms, but now we added the functional grouping to the histogram. So you can kind of also discuss or tell, you know, where's operations versus quality in their answer sets.
Yeah, if there's a different group that's driving the results,
yeah,
you can easily see it in the stacked bar.
So that's all the stacked bars. It is in all the individual answers too. So what you'll notice is that the spreadsheet has a lot more tabs because it's got one for each one. So the other thing is that the data behind the charts is there in some hidden tabs. So we've made it for simplicity. We've hidden those data tabs, but they're there. And the other thing is that you can take advantage. This works whenever it feels like it. Okay. You can take advantage of the filtering functions in Excel. If you want to just say, okay, I just want to look at one division, then show me the next division, you can use the filtering function to do that. Is it easily explained? How different?
If I had my
okay.
I mean, if anybody's interested in how to do it.
So on a Mac, it's a little different. Just to make a note, but it's still there. Okay. And the other thing is that this diagram, when you get into the future state analysis, that this transition matrix with the arrows is automatically calculated for you too. That used to be an additional manual step. Yeah. So that's also exciting. Now in my testing, it will actually draw the arrow to the left if the future state people say they want to go backward. So that actually works. I know, don't think it's a great feature, but it works. So what's next in our roadmap? Let's start getting into that. First, any questions about the current functionality? And we'll be talking about enhancements. So the first thing I want to talk about is the enhancements that we have in Q or people have requested so far. Okay. So support for manufacturing workers with no email. Okay. And now, so start thinking as we go through this, there's going to be a voting at the end. So please keep in mind which one of these you think we should work on first. So I can tell you that we're not going to try to do everything, one big thing, right? Agile, we're going to do iterations of this. So when we first started, we thought, well, we're moving into a digital world. Everybody should have email. But we have found that some manufacturers want some folks to participate that do not have email. Okay, so we need to know how much of that we have. Actually, that's, I think, already in the works, to tell you the truth. So add option to display industry benchmark. I'm going to show you an example of what we're doing with benchmark data. Right? We already have enough that's starting to accumulate. And we can display a line So you know how there was the average line for that company. We could add another line for an industry benchmark. I'll show you some examples of that. We've been asked for multilingual assessment, and we had one of the MEPs help us translate. And so Polaris is here. Thank you very much. Okay. So it might take us a while to get it in there, but we value the feedback. So this is an example of crowdsourcing enhancements. So we at least have the Spanish version as a starting point. But giving the capability for somebody to answer in Spanish is interesting.
I really haven't gone to your. Is there any actual walking over the same screen?
No, not that kind of assessment. No, but keep that in mind. So there's a place to add more tools. So there's in that second phase. So we start up front with a crowdsourced assessment, but then we do deep dives and further analysis, and we do business value analysis, and that's where in the whole process, that's where those type of analysis and tools would go. Okay. So ability to upload that manufacturer user list through like a CSV or something. So when we're working with small manufacturers, and it's 20 is one thing, but we've had some companies with 300 people, right? This starts becoming a priority. So that's on the list too. Support for a third-party co-consultant. So this is where, like, you use an external champion. Yeah, some of you know where this came from. Okay, but so there will be one consultant that owns that manufacturer and that engagement. But let's suppose you have a friend over here you want to work with you. You can have a collaboration, and we want to encourage that. You could have a champion that is not internal, but external, like another MEP or a regional consultant, okay? And you can still have ownership of the process under the MEP or whoever, okay? So that is something on the list, okay? Now, I feel like I have to qualify that. The idea is not that champions are all external, right? So the process is spiritually, and the intent here is we're delegating most of this to the manufacturer. But some consultants have found that could be a little intimidating at first. So they want a way to step into it and say, okay, we'll help you get you started, and then gradually bring that internal champion, get them more comfortable with the process, and let them take it over. But at the end of this process, you need to have one or two internal champions that are going to take it forward. Because all we're doing is the roadmap part of that chevrons, right? Any questions on that? Okay. So this other one here, open text answer questions. So we've had some manufacturers that wanted some ability to add some free-form questions. Okay, and we say, okay, we cannot benchmark those, but we'll give you some ability to get feedback and add custom questions that are specific to that manufacturer. That would be that. This one's a little controversial, and I'm going to ask for a show of hands, but some folks have said, I want the ability to say, I don't know as an answer to some of these questions. We currently do not have that because we wanted people to give us the best, give us a feeling of what they thought the answer was, even if they weren't 100% sure. So there's some debate whether this would dilute the answer base or would it make it better? Will it improve the quality or be less quality? Because some people will just say, I don't know to a bunch of things. So is there enough people know enough here to have a feeling for how many think I don't know as an answer is the valid answer?
They shouldn't be to every question.
Shouldn't be to every question.
Depends on the question. Sometimes you want to know.
Oh, sometimes you want to know that they don't know.
Correct.
Yeah, but not on every question.
Not every question.
Interesting. Okay. Maybe we can add that to, can you take notes for me on some of that? Okay.
Someone doesn't know the answer, and instead of clicking I don't know, clicking to something, which is in the options, you get a kind of wrong answer.
Yeah, well, that's the, all right, that's part of the argument. What gives you more data? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. 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 So it sounds like we're about 50-50. So my current thought on this is to make it an option for the consultant to do it per manufacturer. Now, this is interesting, what curve that was added today. Do we do it per customer per question? I mean, that's a lot of variability.
I was actually going to just ask, set as a toggle in the system
Uh-huh.
For a manufacturer, not by person.
For the manufacturer. I think maybe by manufacturer. This is the thing, if we start making this too custom, then it starts affecting our benchmark data, okay? So we gotta be a little careful about that, but maybe this is not. And another thing that's been asked is, and yeah? Yeah. Well, put that on the list. So right now, first, there's not enough data per client to do that, but that could be in the roadmap. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Yeah, put it on the list. I mean, while we're doing it, maybe it's not a big deal. Okay. Yeah.
Just one thing on this, I don't know.
Uh-huh.
Half the people that really don't know. Really want to. That's valuable information. Should know. They shouldn't know. But that are super humble. And they would say they don't.
Yeah.
So they go, well, I don't give that person, but I don't know. Don't give them. They will some amount of knowledge that might be close to an expert level knowledge.
Yeah, because what could happen is that quality says, I'll just answer the ones that are closer to quality, engineering, the ones that are closer to engineering, and suddenly you're not getting the crowdsourcing.
Forcing everyone to answer questions.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I really don't know. I don't know, but I value my opinion. Set it up.
Yeah.
I just did a and we left I don't know in took all this stuff separate. And then I don't know. And when in those questions where I don't know was the number that was inside. When it was coming in,
Okay.
I don't know.
No. Yeah.
But sometimes
So-
you're able to, sometimes you're able to, I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
from the variability.
Yeah.
Correct. So. No answer, because of
It's
what
okay.
you just mentioned.
Well,
It's in the noise, then it's actually.
Well, right.
So if-
these bipolar answers, I don't need to have, I don't know.
yeah.
I have the data.
And remember, you are kind of, there is a next phase after the assessment, right? Where, and that's what he was talking about. He can deep dive into some of
But as you get
the,
into it, this probably doesn't need to be.
yeah.
But right
Yeah.
now, early on, we decided not
Yeah.
to do that. That people, especially, this came up as a teaching base. Learn about
Yeah.
this one of the first questions. Answer.
Yeah. So, and keep in mind that, so this is the flavor of enhancements that we built from current feedback. But go back and also, as you're working the processes, think about it, that know that we are listening. So please always feel you can always send me an idea or Jim, and we get together. And these are the kind of things also in the community calls. We want to discuss this in the community calls that I want to keep having. We've only had one Zoom one so far, but I expect to do more. And the other thing is the Gen AI capabilities that there's been some generative AI that's been used here and there in different analysis to look at the insights and help. Do we build them into the system? Okay.
I think like interviews.
Yeah.
Should be able to. Probably potentially better than us just giving.
So I want to give you a sneak peek of some of the benchmark data. There's 60 companies in there, and that's the average on the transition matrix, right? This is what it looks like for aerospace, a little ahead in some areas. This is what it looks like for large companies, right? So also a little ahead of smaller companies. Smaller companies, a little to the left, as you would expect.
And further behind it.
Infrastructure too, yeah. Okay. This is more typical of the smaller companies MEPs are working with. So I just wanted to show you though that there could be value in that benchmark data, right? And we are building it, and that's part of what we want to share with you. Okay. So then, what do we work on next? So we could go left to right, and start doing some of the things in the focus sessions. And I think so. One of the ideas is this solution catalog idea, and keep providing more. This is probably going to happen anyway, but I'm interested if this is something you want to exercise with your customers. And remember that at this point, what we want is categories of solutions and general idea of cost and effort so that you can have that discussion.
My suggestion.
Yeah. It could be the wrong name. Capability catalog. So, yeah. Yeah, okay. That's a good idea. But we can put that down because that's really what we want. Yeah, and this is more of that. But this is the thing. We don't want to put, unless we know that there's 2 or 3 vendors available, we don't need to surface their name right away. But what's the point of bringing up things that we don't have vendors aligned to support small, medium manufacturers? So we want to make sure that, for example, you vet some of these solutions. You're using them with your small, medium manufacturers. Well, tell us about them because we want to put them in. Now, we will generalize it into a capability kind of matrix, but we will also make available by the way, this is tools are available to you. So the idea now is not that the manufacturer will go and look at this catalog. The idea is this is a tool for the consultant to narrow down what you want to put in front of the manufacturer. Right?
So this would not be accessible.
Well, yes. So the champion should have access to it if we're delegating a lot of this process to him. But that could be debatable. How much do you want the champion to have or the consultant? Right? Okay. That's a good point. Now, the one that I really think has a lot of value is the discovery interview template. How many people know that there is a template of like 200 questions in there, right? In the template, okay. So the idea is to keep expanding that for you to be able to add your own on top and then provide capability to filter that and prepare for these interviews, okay? Oh, I'm gonna meet with quality and these guys are discrete manufacturing. So why don't you give me suggestions for what are the favorites or something? But that somehow the system is helping you narrow down, prepare for the interview, as opposed to if we start getting this up to 500 template questions or something. Okay? Yeah. Yeah. Up to you. So the discovery temp, that's not the assessment I'm talking about. I'm talking about the discovery interview temp. Okay. Yeah, this is where you start adding your value, but you need to, let's suppose you have more questions in OT. Okay, well, but you need to, it's up to you to bring that in at the right time. Not lead with that, because maybe that wasn't the area that bubbled up in their priority. But if it is, then you're going to exercise that during your deep dive. And maybe you're going to exercise it with some roles, but not with other roles, right?
So Luis, that's come up before, and I guess I'd potentially look at it slightly differently. That do we need another round of, I don't want to say assessment, but data gathering?
Mm.
And so a lot of it we do by interviews. Could we create another set of surveys, which is kind of round 2 of more data gathering, that could be maybe faster achieved by a survey? You'd have 10 questions on OT or 10 questions on IT or 10 questions that, right now we do this ad hoc and we kind of think about what are the pointed questions, but potentially there'd be a room to just have a generic survey that was round 2 of this.
So I'm going to have to move a little faster.
Yeah, you're running behind, Conrad. Quit
I
talking.
am running behind. I need to run. So if
Bob
you
had
mind.
a compelling question.
Okay.
Yeah, probably.
Those are open-ended.
Probably not multiple choice, but if you asked the question and said, fill in the box, and then we could analyze it with AI to generate the responses or generate the insights.
As opposed to doing the deep dive interview.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the other thing would be some of these maybe have a lower priority, because with the Excel spreadsheet, you're probably doing fine, but I want to know if our assumptions are wrong, right? So the value calculator, the roadmap builder, are those priorities, or we're okay? So we want to know, basically, you tell us what your priorities are. What do you feel a tool can really help you? And what does that look like to really help you and alleviate some of the manual steps in the process? Okay. So I'm not going to go through all of this, but I do want, why did I am going.
That's one handsome man.
How long then? Okay. I was logged in. What happened? Probably logged me out or something. I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna have to skip that. Okay. There is a Slido question there. I'm not gonna wait for the answers, but please go ahead. And you've been using Slido in the whole conference. And even if we move forward with the discussion, go ahead and vote on those, please, because I want to know your priorities, okay? But basically, it's all the items we were talking about should be on this list. You might have to scroll down, okay? But what I want to do is I wanted to have enough time to talk about what's working for the regional teams to help build a roadmap and the pipeline. And different groups are doing different things. For example, South Carolina is training a lot of roadmap folks. They're doing the road shows. They're doing workshops, all to fill in the pipeline. Okay, and they discovered that they wanted to go and get some Department of Commerce funding in the state. So some of the states are leveraging some state funds to incentivize these initial engagements. And the idea there is to start building some of these success stories in your region. So I want to know, oh, and they also, this is an interesting concept, top exchange, where peers, they gather manufacturing peers periodically, and they run these meetings, and it gives them, they pay to be part of this group, but they get the value of sharing what they're doing and how they're doing and best practices among themselves, okay? So these are some of the things in South Carolina. Yeah.
How do I get to how do I get a actually?
And then, so Art from South Carolina was going to be here, was planning to be here, but he couldn't make it because of a family issue. So instead we got Mike.
Thank you, Conrad.
and Mike is going to share, and there's some exciting things they're working on in Northeast Ohio. Yeah,
Right, art would have been much more exciting. Although I don't know where they got that picture. So, just quickly, my name is Mike Yost. I'm from Northeast Ohio, from the Cleveland area. Been around CESMII and around this space, and probably met a bunch of you somewhere along the way. From a career perspective, I've worked large industry, global nonprofit, national nonprofit with CESMII, and more recently, I've been focused with regional nonprofits. Primarily because that's, no matter what programming I've ever been a part of, the disconnect comes when you don't have that reach and that trust with the local manufacturers. And so I'm working with a nonprofit called Manufacturing Works, Northeast Ohio. It's been around for 35 years, work in partnership with Magnet, the local MEP.
You want to advance?
I think I can't work my own remote control. You got to back it up for me, though. How do you back it up?
Oh, you want to back it
So
up?
I took this is their standard slide. You guys have been talking about this, seen it a number of times here, right? And where I look at it is what's happening at the explore stage, who's helping you build your funnel, and then who is helping you after the roadmap is done, right? So as a local nonprofit in Cleveland, that's the area where we're focused on. So we have programs that we're running. We're trying to advocate for all the manufacturers in our region that they have a language that they can use to speak about digital capabilities, right? We're not telling them you got to buy anything. We're telling them that you have to have a knowledge or have to have a language that you can use to talk about this. And the language that we're teaching is the CESMII Acceleration Framework. So we're using this methodology, this set of tools to advocate that people learn this. And if they want to jump in and go take the class at RPI online and certify themselves, fantastic. If they want to work with somebody like yourselves to come in and do the assessments and the roadmaps with them, perfect, that's fine. We're going to look to build communities of practice and learning cohorts and things like that around this content and this initiative for people to understand the value. The other thing is, excuse me, once the roadmap is created, right, and they go to execute, they go to do work, they're going to need help from people in the region. Could be MEPs, it could be machine builders, could be lean consultants, could be any number of different folks, right? And could be workforce related, right? Could be supply chain related, number of different ways that they're going to need help. We could potentially go out and get them funding, get them resources, et cetera. Us trying to help them today without this kind of information is really, really tough, right? They don't know what to tell us they need. We don't know what to tell them, you know, we can deliver. And so by having a blueprint, having a roadmap that this is where they're going and this is what they're looking for, we have people in our ecosystems, right? Economic development people, community development people, state workforce folks that can say, hey, we have programs, we have resources that we could plug in to help you support the growth there, whether it's on the technology side or the people side or whatever it is. So that's the area that we focus on in Northeast Ohio. And just to paint a picture of two things quickly, since Conrad took all my time, 50% of all jobs in Northeast Ohio are dependent on manufacturing, right? We have almost 8,000 manufacturers in the northeastern quarter of the state, okay? 94% of those are small companies, smaller than 100 employees. Those 6 roadmap companies that Jim talked about before, I think the biggest one has 35 employees, right? So when we look at how we're going to serve them, they're too big to fail. They're too important for us to not be able to serve them, but going one by one individually and trying to connect with them and serve them in the traditional model just is not supportable. We're not going to get there. They're not going to get the value that they need. So we are rolling out in Northeast Ohio a program we call ManuFuture Today. And the model I'm going to put up here started at Purdue. So this has already been rolled out in North Central Indiana. And we are rolling it out right now in Northeast Ohio. And essentially, this is very busy, and I apologize for that. But rather than having every single small manufacturer have a line of communication to every potential solution provider out there, whether it's on the technology side or it's Chamber of Commerce or you know, the local universities, community colleges, et cetera, way too inefficient for them to do that and for the people with those resources to be able to deliver for them. So the idea is to bring the manufacturers together in community, have them work through process together to give them a safe space where they can identify shared challenges, resources, assets that they can bring to bear and focus on challenges together. So we are working right now, Purdue's been doing this for about the last 4 or 5 years. We're about 8 months into it, Northeast Ohio. We're talking to other regions about doing it as well and identifying the pieces, parts that we need to successfully engage with the manufacturers and support them. So we are talking with other regions. But again, when we engage with them, we're really talking with them about where their pains are, the things that they're trying to accomplish. We're not coming in trying to sell them that they need to digitize, right? The framework, the tools, the facilitators like yourselves are all potential assets and resources that we can leverage with folks. So, so again, I mentioned before, I used to work for a global nonprofit called Mesa International. It was in 41 countries around the world. Worked for CESMII directly for 2 years. And then started working for Manufacturing Works at the beginning of this year under contract. And again, it's because of having that last mile connection. And what Manufacturing Works does, they're a traditional workforce development, leadership development, community development organization. They run programs, pre-apprenticeship programs, apprenticeship programs, leadership development, that kind of stuff. And despite the fact that their Manufacturing Works and they've been around for 35 years, they don't know jack squat about the stuff that we're talking about here, right? And so I come in and I have this experience, 35 years in industry doing this stuff, all these connections, no CESMII, no Jim, no Conrad and all these tools. And we're saying, how do we bring that into this environment in a complementary way? How do we work with the local MEPs, not compete with the local MEPs? How do we work with the universities, all these different folks that have a bunch of good things that are going on, resources that are available? How can we bring them together? And I think that it starts with having a position of trust with the local manufacturers. So that's the work we're doing right now in Future, Northeast Ohio. Over the past 4 months or so, we have about 40 manufacturers that have been working together in the space we've provided. They've organized into 3 work streams, one around operational efficiency, one around culture and learning, and one around strategy and growth. And so we tend to see different audiences in those different areas. Business owners are in the strategy and growth area, and the plant floor folks are in the operational efficiency folks. And we're telling them the same thing, right? Like, don't rush out and buy a technology solution. Get this language, understand how to talk within your business, understand how to talk outside of your business about what the position is, the value, the role, the fit of these solutions, of what problems you're trying to solve. And then we're able to have that same story go across all those different audiences. So I mentioned most of this already, that we're not selling roadmaps. Roadmap is a tool that we have in our arsenal. We're trying to advocate that the manufacturers themselves learn how to talk about this and how to become digital. And what comes with that is a lot of the stuff that I think Jim had talked about, or Conrad talked about, what the CESMII is doing, right? Workshops and things like that to get the work out. So, or the word out, I'm sorry. And that's hard to do. Like, if every one of you has to go out and do all that work yourself to generate interest and cultivate things and to maintain the momentum with companies, it's really difficult. So being in a position where we are as a nonprofit that can take state and federal funds, we have DoD funding, DOE funding, EDA funding that is supporting our work to help build the pipeline. So we've taken 10 companies through the assessment phase. 2 of them have stopped and said they don't want to go further. 8 have committed to going forward. Of those 8, 2 of them keep saying they want to go, but haven't gone anywhere, right? And so as our partners from the facilitation perspective, like, I can't ask Tim to keep chasing those people down, but we have people on staff that are talking to them about workforce and talking to them about other programs and stuff. We can continue to cultivate those relationships. So it's a pretty synergistic, complementary kind of thing. And we just continue to use this as the foundation for us going out and finding additional support. And that's how we're rolling with this stuff. So okay.
Is Manufacturing Works a member organization?
Yes,
They take a membership.
they do.
That plus DOD and DA funding and all that is
Primarily, the way we do this now is because of the DoD and EDA funding and that stuff, right? Yes, the state's very interested, but they're interested on a workforce perspective, in addition to the technology perspective. But either way, we have the access to the folks, and when we get in and we have conversations here about workforce, right, then that leads us into deeper conversations about what the community college and the universities can do from a talent development perspective and things like that.
But adding to that, I think one of the things that's working is that manufacturers sometimes will come to you from the workforce side or from the roadmap side or the technology side. But if you put a broader menu in front of them, they might start with that, but they might get interested in this other thing. And the truth is they need all of them, right, to move forward. Mike, thanks for sharing that. And there's a little time for questions here. And please take advantage of this ecosystem, or if one of the regions wants to share a little more about what they're doing, also, that's also welcome. Hey, Mike. So what? Yeah. So one is how many roadmaps are completing and manufacturers have committed to doing stuff, and the other one is actually moving into the next phase. How many move into execution and start executing? Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. So that whole chevron, and every other year they're supposed to repeat the process. Yeah. 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 This is not. Things are changing constantly, so it's a journey. Yeah. And we're not asking them to move all the way to the right in the maturity right away. No, it's like take practical steps along the way.
So what size are you starting? Continue and then cycle back and then
we haven't gotten to the point of people
Yeah.
circling back. The only company we've had circle back was the first company we did that went through and we're like, crap, we didn't do that right. And now they're coming back and they seriously,
Yeah.
they learned internally, like, oh, well, like we really should be
Yeah.
all in on this, but
Yeah.
I didn't get the owner involved. And now they're going back and we're having conversations with the owner about
But
it.
it's a different perspective than maybe some groups are used to. Okay, we did a project with them and we move on to the next one. But this is building relationships and longer term relationships too.